Well, good evening, you guys. So I come to you this evening with all humility, even after being bashed for the last 72 hours behind Bill Cosby, who, by the way, appears to be a creep. And he was found guilty by a jury of his peers. However, that doesn't mean that he's guilty. 98% of the cases in the United States of America are plea bargained out because for profit, private and public, district attorneys are interested and federal prosecutors are interested in putting as many people behind bars as they can. It's a racket. Allied Barton and other corporations for profit prisons are interested in that. Now, as far as Bill being innocent or guilty, well, he was found guilty. However, does that mean he's guilty? Not necessarily. That jury determined in that week that he was. OJ was found not guilty. Does that mean he's not guilty? Absolutely not. That jury, a different jury on a different day, could have found OJ guilty. This is how the system works. Now, I have a couple of relatives and many friends who are attorneys on the defense side and on the prosecution side. So they've explained this to me for years. I want to talk, however, about personal accountability and responsibility of young men and young women. I've been maligned for saying the word lady, even though a lady is a woman, but a lady, the difference is this: a woman can be a streetwalker, and that's okay if that's her thing. I'm not bashing streetwalkers, but would you want your daughter or niece to be a streetwalker? That's the first question. The second thing to think about is this: ladies are paragons of virtue and citadels of dignity. They hold themselves to a higher standard than normal women. They command respect because they exhibit self-respect. So again, the last 72 hours, I've been called a slut shamer, a victim blamer, a rape apologist, a pig, and a number of other uncomplimentary terms. Ask me if I care. I'm about facts, not opinions. I care less about your opinion or anybody else's opinion because that doesn't matter. So let me give you some facts. So I digress for a second. Let's talk about personal responsibility and accountability. Abortion is not against the law. But isn't it funny that 300,000 ladies every year who have had abortions regret it, and 92.1% of them suffer from PTSD, and many of them never recover. Now, this is from Masters and Johnson 3 years ago. I want to talk about me and what I do. I've lost 4 friends, female friends, in the last 7 years to domestic violence. 2 of them committed suicide because their significant others threatened them and they thought they'd never see their children again. And the other 2 were murdered. One of them I had a chance to save, but like an idiot, I I listened to my ex-wife, excuse me, who insisted that I didn't get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go and protect her from getting her brains beat out. Her cousin called me the next day and said, Levi, the dude beat her to death. He didn't have a gun. You have a concealed carry permit. You could have prevented that. To this day, I carry that burden. Listen, I volunteer at a local area battered women's shelter and a rape crisis center. I have for years. I take my daughters there so they can understand what happens in these situations. Back to personal accountability and responsibility. If you think that your daughters or nieces or female cousins should go to a man's bed, hotel room at 4 o'clock in the morning or any other time, or to your place or his place, and he wants to play Scrabble with you and have some drinks, that's irresponsible. If you think men are dogs, that's fine. Then if you lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas. That's how this works. I really can't understand why anyone, listen, expectations. There was a song in the 70s, If I Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda. I forgot who performed that song. But in the real world, in reality, most virile, normal men in a situation in close quarters with a woman overnight and with drinks, drugs, or whatever, they are going to want something. When I have raised my daughters the last 10 years, I explained to them at a very early age, do not put yourself in situations that can become beyond your control. Once it's beyond your control, then you're susceptible to all kinds of horrible things happening. Ladies, that's not common sense. That's not rational thinking. I understand that if you go anywhere with a man, you should not be subjected to fondling, to rape, to inappropriate behavior, to any of that. I embrace that. But that's not reality. There are boogeymen out there with bad intentions for women. So if you want to avoid, listen, there are two different categories of rape. One category is external to your control. If a man breaks into your apartment or house, rapes you, or pushes you in an alley, rapes you, puts a gun to your windshield in the parking lot and rapes you, that is beyond your control. But let me explain the other side of that coin. What is within your control? If you voluntarily go to a man's hotel room, house, apartment, condo, whatever, or you have him in your personal space, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. It's not right. It's not justifiable. I'm not defending men who conduct themselves in that manner. But you can avoid that by not going in the first place, just like you can avoid an abortion by not having unprotected sex. Listen, if you don't want to have a baby, then tell your man to, use protection, and you use protection, and then you won't be among the 300,000 women that have an abortion because you won't get pregnant in the first place. And I don't want to hear oh, pregnant isn't, birth control isn't 100%. Well, it actually 90% of the time, if you use condoms and a diaphragm and a shot and pills, there's a very, 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 very slight chance of you getting pregnant. Enough on abortion. I am not going to listen to people. I don't care if you block me or not. I'm going to start blocking people. But personal accountability and responsibility is the best way in the circumstances surrounding Kobe Bryant, Bill. You can avoid that. Don't go to the men's room in the first place. Why is that so hard to understand? Don't go there. Assume the worst unless you're interested in these activities. And if you are, that's fine. But don't come back 10 years or 20 years later and say, oh, well, you know something? He gave me drugs and we were drunk and he forced himself on me. Of course he did. That's what, unfortunately, most men do. I haven't done it. And I've been in college 4, 6, 8 years between undergrad and grad school. I am out. God bless all of you. Please exercise rational, reasonable thinking and tell your male relatives that are young, tell them to behave, but tell your female relatives that are young, don't put yourselves in situations that will result in disaster, calamity, tragedy. Teach these young people to be responsible, accountable, make good decisions, and we don't have to worry about awful things happening to them as adolescents and adults. Again, we're out. God bless all of you.